went down the rabbit hole of Gypsy Rose's prison emails, and there was one particular that could get Ryan in a lot of trouble if it is indeed true. But before I read you this email, remember, Gypsy is a pathological liar. And there's also one about Gypsy and Ken, and how Gypsy thought that Ken could also play for the other side, but we'll get back to that one in just a minute. Now, just a few days ago, Ryan actually went online and talked about how he did indeed lose his teaching job because of some of the things that were said during Gypsy and Ryan's spat over the internet. Also, keep in mind that Ryan does work in a school system with children. Now, I'm not saying whether these emails are true or not true. If they are not true, though, they are bad enough that Ryan should consider suing Gypsy. Now, this is allegedly to another man, and it says, last night blank, which was allegedly Ryan, told me of an experience in his past, and I'm having a hard time accepting it. I think it slightly made me think less of him, and it led to a disagreement. I told him I need a few days to process it, so I asked him to be let off my leash for a few days and took off my wedding ring, as it makes a difference. To put it simply, 16 years ago, his ex-girlfriend Jennifer gave him blank in front of her 5-year-old kid, and he let it happen. So now I think his morals are blank off because he let her do it.
Grab your popcorn, babe, because Gypsy Rose Blanchard just blew the lid off a scandal that might actually ruin someone's life this time. And no, we're not talking about another hairstyle switch or her usual post-prison antics. We're talking about an explosive, jaw-dropping email that just resurfaced, and what she said in it about her ex-husband Ryan Anderson could wreck his entire career, or land her in serious legal heat. Either way, the tea is scalding hot. So here's the deal. While still locked up behind bars, and, yes, still married to Ryan, Gypsy was allegedly entertaining multiple men who slid into her prison inbox. Not flirty pen pals. We're talking deep, emotional convos with total strangers. One of those men, apparently, received an email from Gypsy that is now making its rounds online, and babe, what she wrote in that email is nothing short of nuclear. In the message, Gypsy claims that she and Ryan got into a fight after he confessed something dark from his past, something involving his ex, Jennifer, and a moment that allegedly took place in front of a 5-year-old child. Gypsy says she was so disturbed, she took off her wedding ring and told Ryan she needed space. But it's the way she phrases it that's sending shockwaves through the internet. She accuses Ryan of letting something deeply inappropriate happen in front of a kid and then questions his morals. The same Gypsy who literally went to prison for orchestrating her mother's murder is now clutching her pearls over someone else's lapse in judgment? Make it make sense. And just to twist the knife deeper, Gypsy casually mentions the ring Ryan gave her, a ring from his ex that he bought 16 years ago, as if that somehow justifies her stepping out of the marriage emotionally and spilling all this to a random dude behind bars. The audacity is wild. But babe, here's the real danger. Ryan works with children. Not just any kids, special needs students in a school environment. That means even the whiff of a scandal like this is enough to set off alarms. Gypsy's email doesn't just hint at relationship drama. It flirts with criminal accusations, stuff like indecent exposure and child endangerment. And in the world of education, perception is everything. One whisper about something this serious, and boom, doors start closing. Jobs dry up. Parents panic. And school boards start looking for any reason to cut ties to avoid the heat. And get this isn't the first time Gypsy's allegedly sabotaged Ryan's livelihood. Not long ago, he quietly revealed that she exposed his private medical history online, without his permission. According to Ryan, Gypsy made his prescription medication public knowledge, and even though his employer never openly addressed it, he says everything changed overnight. The way his coworkers treated him, the opportunities he was offered, or suddenly wasn't offered. The energy shifted. The trust vanished. And still, Ryan said nothing. He didn't rage post. He didn't fight back publicly. He didn't spill his side of the story in some tell-all. He stayed silent. Maybe because he was trying to protect what was left of his reputation, or maybe because he thought Gypsy's chaos would eventually fade out. But now, that silence could cost him everything. And here's where things take a turn so twisted it could be a whole season of a true crime docuseries. People are now debating whether Ryan's silence is a red flag or a legal strategy. Is he ashamed? Or is he lawyering up behind the scenes, letting her dig her own grave while he builds a case? Because let's be real, if that email is false, and that's still a big if, Gypsy could be looking at a brutal defamation lawsuit. The kind that doesn't just burn bridges, it drops bombs. But the internet doesn't wait for facts. Screenshots are being passed around like candy, TikTokers are dissecting every line, and Ryan's name is being dragged into a storm he may not come back from.
These Gypsy Rose prison emails, and there is one particular that could get Ryan in a lot of trouble if it is indeed true. But before I read you this email, remember, Gypsy is a pathological liar. And there's also one about Gypsy and Ken, and how Gypsy thought that Ken could also play for the other side, but we'll get back to that one in just a minute. Now, just a few days ago, Ryan actually went online and talked about how he did indeed lose his teaching job because of some of the things that were said during Gypsy and Ryan's spat over the internet. Also, keep in mind that Ryan does work in a school system with children. Now, I'm not saying whether these emails are true or not true. If they are not true, though, they are bad enough that Ryan should consider suing Gypsy.
Do y'all remember when Gypsy Rose just got out of prison and everybody thought she was a sweet little butterfly who wanted peace and quiet? Well, baby, she was in full-on PR mode from prison, and I got the receipts to prove it. So 1980s Millennial posted this, and child, the tea is sweet. Now, this email is from October 27th of 2023, contrary to when she said she wrote these things in her 20s. So this is before Gypsy even stepped foot out of those prison gates, okay? And what she's doing is strategizing, pitching her story, and feeding TMZ her own narrative through a source, which is really just her pretending to act like she's somebody else in third party. She literally wrote, "I would appreciate you using a source, as I don't want to breach my NDA." Girl, that's like saying I robbed the bank, but please tell them I wore a mask. And then she name drops Taylor Swift like this is some teenage dream fan club letter. My husband and I got the Chiefs tickets for December 31st, and I'm hoping to see her there. She was manifesting a meet and greet in the same email where she's breaking her NDA. Child. Let me be clear. This wasn't a leak. This wasn't a slip up. This was carefully planned media play from prison. Meanwhile, the rest of the world out here crying, thinking she was just a survivor from the beginning and just trying to start over. So next time you wonder how Gypsy Rose ended up with a docuseries, a book, a glow-up makeover, and stadium-level publicist, just remember this email was sent before she even packed her stuff up in her cell. Prison didn't stop the PR and the NDA. It was just a suggestion, apparently.
His career, his reputation, his future, it's all dangling by a thread because of one email from a woman known for manipulation, lies, and a criminal past that still gives people chills. And the most deliciously disturbing part? Gypsy, the same woman who once lied her way through Munchausen, faked illnesses, and plotted a murder, is now the one claiming moral superiority. She's out here judging Ryan like her hands are clean, like she's never made a dangerous decision in her life. The irony is thick enough to choke on. Gypsy doesn't just lie, babe, she constructs narratives. Dangerous, calculated ones. Remember the disturbing moment from her past with Nick Gojon? Yeah, the one people still try to scrub from memory. At one point, Gypsy told Nick she wanted him to assault their future daughter when she turned 13. Yep. She said it. But when that horrific detail came to light later, Gypsy went into full panic mode and tried to rewrite the story. She claimed it was all Nick's idea. She painted herself as horrified, said that's why she left him. She played the part of the innocent, manipulated girl. But when the FOIA documents came out, baby, the mask cracked. The truth was right there in black and white. It was her suggestion. It wasn't Nick's fantasy. It was Gypsy's plan. She looked the public in the eye and lied, boldly, repeatedly, without hesitation. So now, with this email about Ryan, we have to ask, what if she's doing it again? What if this whole thing is just another twisted chapter in her long-running pattern of manipulation? What if that email was crafted not as a confession, but as a calculated move to gain sympathy, a tool to woo another admirer? A way to make herself look like the victim and cast Ryan as this morally depraved husband she needed to escape. It sounds extreme, right? But when you really think about it, it's classic Gypsy. She's done it before. She builds the scene, controls the spotlight, places herself at the center as the misunderstood, wounded soul, and throws everyone else under the bus on her way out. She did it with Nick. She did it with Ken. And now all signs are pointing to her doing it with Ryan. And the terrifying part? She's good at it. Too good. Because she doesn't just lie. She wraps those lies in tears, in wounded tone, in just enough truth to make you hesitate. She knows how to sound authentic. She knows how to hit those emotional nerves. And she knows how to weaponize your past against you. That's what makes her dangerous. When Gypsy talks, people listen, and worse, they believe her. But this isn't just about Ryan anymore. Ken Urker, her now partner and baby's father, wasn't spared either. People are starting to realize Gypsy has a pattern of turning on the men in her life when they don't do what she wants. Back in 2020, when she and Ken had split, Gypsy sent him a string of vicious emails that would leave anyone stunned. She flew into a rage just because he didn't answer one of her calls. And what did she say? F you, F off, you're a piece of shh. *T, and even your own mother told me she thought you were a loser. She didn't stop there, she said, you're nothing and no one to me. I don't want you. I don't love you. And I wouldn't care if you died. And now, they're having a baby together. Let that sink in. This is the same woman who mocked Ken's identity, called him closeted, shamed him, and coldly said she wouldn't care if he took his own life. And today, they're building a family like none of that ever happened. That's not just toxic, it's downright chilling. And more importantly, it proves this isn't some one-off situation. This is a pattern. A disturbing, manipulative cycle. Gypsy lashes out when she doesn't get her way. She says the most unforgivable, gut-wrenching things. Then later, she rewrites history depending on what she needs from that person. She torches the bridge and strolls back across the ashes like the fire never happened.
Yo, Ken has played us this whole time. Homie knew that Gyp thought he was pitching for the other team. And how do I know that he knew? Gypsy told him in 2020. But it gets worse. Apparently even his mama thought he was pitching for the other team. I'll just read you the email. Sometimes I call you for a reason. I had something very important to tell you tonight, but your attitude was a total turnoff. I have had it with you. F off and F you. You are such a piece of... And I frankly always thought you were... Even your own mother told me she thought you were gonna be. You are nothing and no one to me. I don't want you, don't love you, and if you ask me, I wouldn't care if you OD'd. And all of this happened literally just because he didn't tell her, hey Gyp, I'm hanging with my friends. I want to talk, but can I call you tomorrow? The girl clearly cannot handle rejection. Anyways, I'm just gonna leave the whole page here for y'all. Hurry up and screenshot it. Oh, another quick note. Gypsy has ruined bananas for us because in one of her messages, she says she took 2 bananas from the chow hall and you know what with them? Anyways, she's also now ruined biscuits and gravy. The dairy aisle, the meat aisle, the toothbrush aisle, and the produce aisle are not safe. Y'all call the fucking police. I can't. Gypsy Rose prison emails, and there is one particular that could get Ryan in a lot of trouble if it is indeed true. But before I read you this email, remember, Gypsy is a pathological liar. And there's also one about Gypsy and Ken and how Gypsy thought that Ken could also play for the other side, but we'll get back to that one in just a minute. Now, just a few days ago, Ryan actually went online and talked about how he did indeed lose his teaching job because of some of the things that were said during Gypsy and Ryan's spat over the internet. Also keep in mind that Ryan does work in a school system with children. Now, I'm not saying whether these emails are true or not true. If they are not true though, they are bad enough that Ryan should consider suing Gypsy.
And in Ken's case, that fire was an inferno. She tried to annihilate his dignity in an email, and now she's calling him her partner and the father of her child. It's emotional warfare dressed up as heartbreak. So again, we're left wondering how much of what Gypsy says can actually be trusted. Because if what she's claiming about Ryan is true, then yeah, legal consequences need to happen. No one's arguing that. But if it's not true, if she exaggerated or flat out lied, then this isn't just messy, it's dangerous. Because that kind of accusation doesn't go away. It lingers. It haunts. It can destroy a man's future before he ever gets the chance to defend himself. Ryan is now stuck in the eye of a storm he didn't ask for. This isn't just post-breakup drama, it's a full-blown threat to his livelihood, his mental health, and his name. Every whisper, every "did you hear," every comment online chips away at the life he worked for. And the heartbreaking part? It's all rooted in a narrative that might not even be true. And now, at the center of this blazing firestorm stands a woman who's made an entire identity out of reshaping reality to suit her own needs. Gypsy Rose Blanchard doesn't just lie, she orchestrates. She carefully edits the facts, rewrites the plot, and always makes sure she ends up playing the victim. And the collateral damage? It's always someone else. We've seen it time and time again. Nick Godejohn, the boy she once claimed to love, was publicly branded as the villain of her dark fairy tale. For years, Gypsy portrayed him as a violent monster with grotesque fantasies. She told the world she was shocked, scared, and desperate to escape. But then the FOIA documents dropped, and the world saw the truth. It wasn't Nick who brought that fantasy into the conversation. It was her. And when it suited her, she flipped the entire story to protect herself and let him take the full fall. Then there was Ken. When things didn't go her way, she lit him up with a series of unhinged, hateful emails that felt less like heartbreak and more like psychological warfare. She said things that made people genuinely question whether she was capable of having a healthy relationship at all. And yet, just like always, she circled back later, rewrote the narrative, turned the flames into flowers, and now they're raising a child together. As if the scorched earth between them never existed. And now, it's Ryan. Another man being publicly unraveled by Gypsy's carefully spun story. One email. One perfectly timed accusation. That's all it took to start chipping away at his career, his character, and his very identity. It's the same playbook, just a different name. At some point, this cycle has to stop. Someone has to draw the line. Someone has to stop letting Gypsy walk away from these explosions without consequences. Because if she keeps getting away with this, if there's never any real accountability, then the pattern will continue. More people will get hurt. More men will be slandered. More children, families, communities will get pulled into her chaos and left to pick up the pieces after she rewrites the script again. And right now, the only person who might be able to stop her is Ryan. If he takes legal action, if he speaks up, if he finally refuses to stay silent, this could be the moment where Gypsy is forced to face the consequences of her words. Really face them. No more shifting blame. No more tearful interviews. No more crocodile apologies. Just truth. Hard, unflinching accountability. But if he doesn't? If Ryan lets this one slide, just like he did when she exposed his medical records, then the damage might go deeper than just a bruised ego. He could lose more than a job. He could lose his reputation, his credibility, his future in the one field he's built his life around, children. And once that doubt sets in, it's almost impossible to erase. That's why every move he makes next matters more than ever. Staying quiet may feel like the safer option, but in this case, silence might be the most dangerous decision of all. So the real question is, will Ryan finally take a stand? Will he fight back, publicly or legally, and protect the life he's worked so hard to build? Let us know what you think, babe. Should Ryan break his silence and fight this head-on? Or has Gypsy already done too much damage to undo? Hit that like button if you're as shocked as we are, and don't forget to subscribe. We're following this one all the way through. Because something tells us this story? It's far from over.